You are listening to She Rises, a podcast dedicated to women who are ready to stop settling and start living their lives by design. If you're ready to talk about the stuff that weighs you down and get practical advice on everything from your health, body image, spirituality, relationships, and personal growth, then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Giovanna Capozza, your host, master coach, spiritual teacher, and mind-body expert, and I'm on a mission to unsettle women all over the world. Are you ready to rise? Hey everyone, Giovanna here from She Rises podcast. I'm super excited. Number one, I get to have you in my home today, which I do every week when I'm on the show. But for the first time ever, we are creating the video series that goes along with the podcast. So yay! So for those of you that want to keep listening in your car or listening while you're doing stuff at home, awesome, keep doing that. And for those of you that want to watch the interviews, amazing. We have that for you. We are going to be doing this on our YouTube channel, which if you're here and you're listening to this, welcome, here you are. If you haven't yet subscribed on iTunes to She Rises podcast, please go on over there, give us a rate and review. We would so appreciate that. A star rating if you're loving it, comments and feedbacks in the comments below this video. As you know, on YouTube, it's a very participatory platform, which is why we decided to do this. And I'm super 100% over the moon excited on cloud. I don't even know what to have our first guest for today, because I have been a fangirl for a while. In fact, I'm just going to fangirl right now. Right now, I'm just going to have my fangirl moment. I'll probably have it again when they're on the show, let's face it. But I'm a huge fan of Gay and Katie Hendricks. In fact, they've personally changed my life with their teachings, and they've changed my relationships, and they continue to do that because they're amazing teachers who are really just evolving with the times and bringing us powerful, amazing information on how we can consciously create our life, how we can consciously be in our life, and how we can consciously be in relationship. And what does that even mean? What does it mean to be in a conscious relationship? We're going to find out today, definitely. But consciousness is just that. It's just the literal meaning of it. When you're unconscious, you're out, you're asleep. And when you're conscious, you're awake and you're here and you're present. And so we can make it sound really airy-fairy, and we can make it sound really kind of fluffy. But having a conscious relationship with yourself, with the world around you, and in your relationships is, I believe, what we're here for, is to be awake in every moment. And otherwise, we're just these reactive, triggered, emotional knots, and we're a mess, and we're just walking around sort of like the Walking Dead. And that's not how we want to be in our lives. At least that's not how I want to be in my life. So I'm super excited to have them on the show today, and to have them be the inaugural guests of our video series. Not every single podcast will be on video. Most will, and eventually probably all will, but select podcasts will definitely be on video. And this one is our launch. It's our kickoff today. It's 2020. We're starting a new year. We're starting a fresh new look and feel to things here at She Rises. And so I'm really super excited to have you guys here. And so, of course, any comments you have about the show, any questions you have for me, or even our guests, please feel free to post in the comments. Again, if you want to just listen while you drive, you can go on over and subscribe to She Rises podcast on iTunes. We're also on Google Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher and probably a bunch of other places. But if you Google it and search it up, as the young kids say these days, you'll find us everywhere, and you can keep listening there. That would be amazing, and we just so appreciate you being here. So without further ado, I want to kick off and start this interview. I hope you guys love it. Hey everyone, welcome to She Rises. This is our first ever video interview, so I'm really, really excited. And as I mentioned to our guests, I've been geeking out all morning and just being a total fangirl. Welcome to the show, Gay and Katie Hendricks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, you're like personal development rock stars to me. So, that's right. That's right. Just own it. Just own it. I'm absolutely thrilled. Like I said before we started recording, I know you guys are busy and you have a lot on the go, and to take the time to be here with me and us today is just, I'm beyond grateful. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
thank you. And also, I just want to say to you that we don't operate in that world of that we're busy. So when people say to us, I know you're busy, I say, how do you
Are
know
we?
that? Because so
we
we choose.
we consider being in a hurry an impending sign of mental illness.
Oh, thank you for saying. I'm going to like write that on my wall in Sharpie. Yeah. And yeah, you choose to be busy or not. And I love that.
No, we choose how we use our time.
Yeah, we
So
do a lot of
busy,
things.
we
But
do a lot of things, but we do them because we choose, and we do them in a way that supports our own aliveness and allows us to choose where we're putting our focus. And that's a lot of what the body intelligence allows you to do, is to really assess, oh, okay, I'm present. Here's where I'm giving my attention, and I'm fully engaged, and that's so efficient, rather than, oh, I'm too busy. What did you say? And you know that I'm never quite where I am. So I just wanted
I
to
love
jump
that.
right in there, because that's a context that so many people have that creates stress for them, and we don't need to operate that way.
I love that I repeated that word and that came into what's being recorded, because we do, and I'm guilty of that. It's like and sometimes when I'm not even busy, like physically, I'm busy up here, like, and it takes away from your presence. It takes away from really just feeling into what you want to do. And I love that you said intentionally. So that even means more to me, that you're intentionally choosing to be here.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I wanted to dive into the topic for today, which is probably my favorite topic, which is creating conscious relationship, and being present and creating intention is how part of how we do it. And I wanted to dive into that because you guys have been doing this for a long time. You did it, you know, you wrote books separately, and you've written books together. You teach this, you know, for as long as I've been alive, and I've been one of the people that benefited from it. So I was just reading that you've been doing it for 40 years, and I thought, I'm 44 this year. I was like, wow, thank God I was born into this day and age where this information is out there. So I started reading books about relationships when I was 19, which I don't think a lot of my Gen X contemporaries were doing. And the reason I did it is because my parents had a horrible relationship, and I knew that it was a value for me. But I entered my first relationship and screwed it up, right? As they say. And I just thought, I don't know how to do this thing. So I guess my first curiosity is, do you notice a difference over these years, these 40 years? Have you noticed a difference between, like, a generational difference in terms of the struggles or the challenges that we face? Or does it seem like we're kind of always challenged with the same thing?
That's a great question.
Good. Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of both, but we are basically challenged by the same things over and over again, because human beings are wired from the beginning to have an urge to get close and an urge to get separate.
And also to have my own individual relationship to the world, and then also be in unity.
And most of us come from the factory with Gorilla Glue, so we're glued in one direction. You're either glued here or you're glued here. So what you have to do first is find out where your glue has gotten you stuck. Like, are you stuck on the getting close, like I'm afraid of getting close, or am I stuck on the I'm afraid of being separate, independent on my own? And, you know, it's, if you tossed a pebble into a crowd, you'd hit one or the other. You know, that those are only two problems that we have from the original standpoint. Now there are other variations that go along with that that are separate to different cultures. For example, Katie teaches a lot over in China and has found some significant relationship differences there that you wouldn't encounter in other places, for example. And so there are cultural differences for sure.
And my sense is too that in the life of our relationships, as we're studying them as a culture, because this is actually the 30th anniversary this year of the publication of Conscious Loving.
of our
We
book.
published
Wow,
it
congratulations.
years ago, and it's been in continuous print since then. And I was just talking to a friend of mine from Europe this morning, and she was saying to me with her son, how valuable, who's 23, how valuable it is for her to keep in mind this balance between time together and solo time. That it's not just in romantic relationships, but that dynamic is really a dance that continues lifelong. And it responds to challenges in your own individual journey, challenges in your partnership, but also challenges in the culture. And I don't think, in my lifetime, I have not ever seen the culture challenged as much as it is now, both in terms of being able to actually connect with another person, but also in the very grounding of what's real. So if I don't know, if I'm not authentic and I don't show up as real, it's very hard to form any kind of relationship. And we have a cultural earthquake going on right now about what's real. And so I think that our body intelligence can be so helpful to us right now to really tune into, do I have a yes? What's my inner yes? And what's my inner no? And what are my body signals that I want to get close? And what are my body signals that, I want some solo time now? And I think those are universal. No matter what's going on in the culture, that each of us can take responsibility for opening up to our own body wisdom and being able to know, oh, I've been having such a good time with you, but I'm feeling a little, that kind of scratchy feeling that lets me know, a little bit of solo time, maybe a walk. I'm thinking, and then that dynamic allows you to find your full presence to actually be able to connect.
Yeah, and just to even honor that and not to feel guilty that you want space from your partner. It's like, oh my God, what does that mean? Why do I feel that? Right. And just to honor that. And so let's dive into body intelligence a little bit, because I had one of my very first mentors very early on say to me, you're living your life in the upper third of your body. She was like, you need to come down. And I was like, I don't know what you mean. Like, I didn't get it in my 20s. I don't think I got it till my 30s, but I didn't understand that. And you brought up a very good point of not only understanding your body signals and then honoring them. So how can we use that? Like, talk to us a bit about body intelligence.
Well, one thing to know that wherever we go in the world, people have the same three big feelings, emotions that they get stuck on trying to deal with in their relationships. One of them is a lot of people have difficulty dealing with the emotion of anger. Either they keep it inside and then blow it up at times, or they keep it inside and make themselves sick because they keep it inside. A lot of people do that. And then some people explode with their anger in such a way that it causes inconvenience to people around them. And I bet you and I have both known lots of people in both of those categories if you grew up in a
I'm
regular
Italian. I grew up in the bursting categories.
Yes, I grew up in the kind of withheld and coming out sideways kind of family. Yeah.
Yeah. So anger, and then there's a second emotion, sadness, grief, whatever you want to call it. But the sadness emotion, a lot of people have difficulty with that because either they don't let themselves feel it deeply enough so that they can let go of it, or they feel it so much that they don't have a breath for anything else. And so a lot of people get stuck on that emotion. The third one, though, which is probably the most troublesome of all, is that underneath both anger and sadness is the emotion of fear. It's even located further down in your body. You know, most people, if you say I'm scared, they're talking about things they can feel in their belly, like butterflies in the stomach, whereas sadness tends to be a little further up in the body. And most people, when they feel anger, they feel their jaws tightening or their neck tightening up or their shoulder blades tightening together. So the body intelligence of knowing that, wouldn't that have been a great thing to learn in the first grade?
Yeah.
You could teach that to a group of first graders. I know, we've done it. And so, but you know, the interesting thing is, I got all the way through elementary school, high school, college,
Graduate
up into
school.
graduate school before
Yeah.
anybody even taught me how to go. You know, we say the longest journey of all is from your head to your heart, 12 inches. You know, it's not very long, but some people take their whole lifetimes. And I was the same way, you know, well up into my 20s, I was a stone wall as far as any of my feelings were concerned. And it's changed my life to be able to, like, I can remember actually the first time I said something to Katie, like, I feel afraid or I'm scared, something like that. It was so hard to get that out my mouth. And I just didn't have any training in doing that.
And also, if with the most important thing about body intelligence is how we can access it. And most of us are trained, our culture trains us to use our awareness to be critical. So when I ask somebody, like I'll ask a group, notice a body sensation, almost everybody notice what's wrong, like a place where they're tight or someplace where it hurts. So, or they'll have a kind of apology about themselves all the time, like, and I'm sorry, I have a scratchy in my throat, I'm sorry. So but the critical attitude prevents us from opening up to our actual body wisdom. So one of the most important things that we teach people is how to shift from criticism to wonder. And there's a very easy body intelligence hack that you can use, which is creating a through a whole out breath, not a of disdain, but a
wonder hum.
A wonder hum, because it actually shifts you from critical brain to wonder brain, and then you can start noticing, because your genuine body wisdom doesn't yell at you. So if you find yourself yelling at yourself inside, you can know that you haven't quite located yourself in your authenticity, in your essence, but you're still operating from the way the culture wants us to be: anxious, stressed, and critical, because we're more manageable. They can control us better, and we'll buy more stuff, because when people are anxious, they'll go buy something to make themselves feel better. And then of course it doesn't last. So then that keeps the whole economy going. So your own inner economy, your body intelligence really thrives on wonder and curiosity. And so I think those are what we can encourage in ourselves and each other that really makes a huge difference, has a big payoff.
Yeah, and it occurs to me as well that it's that same wonder and that same openness to just like what's happening right now, and really just being an inquiry about it is also useful when your partner is coming at you with something, to stay in, curiosity around it rather than going into reactivity, which is part of that hardening of our body. So do you have any experience with that?
Oh, not at all.
I know, dumb question. Tell us about your experience.
Everything that we talk about has been carefully kitchen tested and bedroom tested. So
yeah, well, I love that you refer to your relationship. I'm going to paraphrase. I had the quote in front of me here, that it's a living laboratory for conscious loving. Like, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to invent something that we had never seen before, because we grew up in some of those similar kind of families. You probably did too, and your viewers, because we if I got into describing the dysfunctions of my family, I wouldn't be talking about anything else in my career.
We have to revive him.
She's met them. She knows about them. But another thing, we talked about those three emotions on a very practical level. Human beings need to get better about expressing their fear to each other, because what causes problems in relationships is people get scared, but they don't know how to communicate the fear. So they take it out by getting hurt or lashing out in anger. So they mask their fear with both sadness and anger. And that causes big problems, because until people can get down to what they're really afraid of in a relationship, you don't really have a chance of getting to that kind of spacious state of intimacy that is what I really wanted. And, like one of our clients said that learning to change one word changed his relationship. And that was to go from what I'm angry about to what I'm scared about. And just being able to talk about it in that more intimate a term began to solve all the sticky places between them.
And I want to give you the good news of a project that we've been working on for a couple of years now on our Foundation for Conscious Living website. We have two websites, thehendricks.com and Foundation for Conscious Living. But we have a whole program, a whole online program that assists people to identify what we call your fear signature, to be able to befriend fear, to be able to move out of fear with something that I've invented called fear melters, and to be able to share with others in a way that allows you to both be together while honoring your own experience. And so there are a whole bunch of resources that viewers can go to. But the big thing that I wanted to say about all of this is that the great joy of relationship, of close relationship, is being able to be fully yourself in the presence of somebody else. And I never knew that that was possible. And having that gift every day with Gay, that I have something coming up and I can just share about that with you, and I can experience your presence, and we can both meet that and see what wants to happen here. And the gift of being able to expand more and more into who we are rather than having to protect, which is a fear move, is the big payoff for all of the different skills and practices that we've invented, but that also people have been using for many, many years now.
I concur. I mean, I just had a personal recent experience with that, and I've never been in a relationship where I felt safe enough to say, I'm actually afraid of this happening. And it's so liberating, because I didn't realize how in all my previous relationships, I walked around with all these, like you said, Gay, these hidden fears, and I didn't want to reveal them. And instead I just reacted to them. And so, yeah, and it brings me back to the glue part that you guys were talking about before. So one of the things that radically transformed how I understood myself was learning about attachment theory and where my fears were around intimacy and what my attachment, style, as they say, was. And that is something that really liberated me. So I want to talk a little bit more about that glue, because I had something come up. Well, I guess it was a few months ago, so not recently. In speaking about that interplay of like dependence and interdependence and codependence and all of that stuff, the movie A Star Is Born, if you recall that movie, this is like the third, I think, or fourth iteration of that movie. And I wrote a blog post after that movie, and the blog post was called "Why a Star Is Born Pissed Me Off." And the reason it did is because I got to the end and it painted this picture again of one of my biggest fears, which was that she finally was flourishing and successful and beautiful, and then lost the love of her life. And it's this story that I felt personally painted with, and a lot of my clients as well, with this: you can either have relationship or you can have success. And as a woman in particular, you can't have both. And I was really triggered by that ending, and mostly because that's a story I've had going on in my head, and a fear that I've had that if I shine, if I'm successful, then what will happen to my relationship? So I wonder if you could speak a little bit more to that, because I think that has to do with the glue a little bit.
Yes, indeed. In fact, when we came in to our relationship, Gay was already a published author, very successful. And it took me a couple of years to figure out that I was relating to him in the same way that I related to my older brother, who was about the same amount of years older than me than Gay is, and was always called in my family number one.
The golden boy.
The golden boy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
that left me as number two. And I used to tell people in our seminars that I developed an Avis persona. Avis, we're number two, we try harder. And that was exactly my orientation in the world. I was just a hard worker, and I can help, I can be the helper, but I really can't shine. And one of the huge discoveries was to find that Gay actually supported my being my full self, and has, without exception, through all of our lives, and has challenged me to, come on, show up. Don't ask me to get smaller. You get bigger, you get more expanded, and own your space. And that when I did that, I found out there was plenty of space for both of us. But I did go through a number of different fears and some of it felt generational also. So for women, if women, we have been, and we still are, if you stand up and speak out, there's a lot of punishment that comes your way. And in fact, women have been killed for thousands of years now, standing up. So it's not just personal. I think that every time in a relationship that a woman takes up her full space and is in partnership, it's a new opportunity for all women to say, oh, this is possible.
Yeah, thank you for that. It is, for me, it feels like new territory, because I've always done the opposite in relationships. I've kind of just the cliche of losing yourself in relationships, right? And losing what was important to me. And it's such new ground I'm treading now in my relationship, because I do have a partner who wants me to shine and is, my biggest fan, and so, but it would be easy for me to just hide and get comfortable in our love, because it's so safe and great and cozy.
Right?
And yet there's this ambition in me that wants to do more, wants to, say more. And, I do finally have a cheerleader, and it's more on me to, like you said, step into it. So it's interesting. Yeah.
What a great problem to have.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking about that there's in terms of body intelligence, there's something very simple but very profound that each of us can do in our interactions, and that is to shift our attention so that we're able to give attention to others and able to give attention to ourselves. So for example, in relationship with Gay, I used to get all of my attention would be going out onto you, and I wouldn't actually be going, how am I doing? Am I breathing?
Yeah, that really, it speaks to that same thing, Giovanna, that you were talking about with A Star is Born, because the other thing that triggered me when I saw that movie, I don't remember ever seeing the
Lady Gaga one.
Yeah, the Lady Gaga one was, she's playing out the same thing I've seen cause grief to so many women that I've seen in therapy and in couples counseling, is that they try to save somebody from their destructive habits. And the energy that goes into saving that person from their destructive habits, which never works, by the way, the same energy that would fuel their own creative big leaps in life. And so it's one of the most common traps that a lot of people get stuck in, but I've seen it show up more in women in my culture anyway.
Well, because we get rewarded for that. We get rewarded for, giving our attention to the man.
Right. We get the love we want, the connection, and or the pseudo even, because, if the person's not fully present, they can't really love and connect the way we want. But there's that illusion that if I just dote and give all, that I'll get in return. And I mean, it speaks to our value of love and connection.
Yes.
And like Gay said, it takes away from our flourishing. Yeah.
Yes. And again, it goes back to that balance between unity and individuation. So what you can co-create together in unity is really valuable, and what you can create on your own in your own direct relationship with the world is also a gift to the relationship. So as I've developed my own creative voice, it's really contributed to what we're able to develop together. And I know that I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I can join, and that dance is itself creative, of coming into what do we want to create together, and then how can I support you in creating what you want, and vice versa. So we have all of these different kinds of creativity that can develop because we're each owning our own responsibility for what we're choosing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I mean, this sums up to me what conscious relationship is. I teach a little workshop called Guide to Conscious Relationships. And the first thing I try to answer for people is, well, why the heck do you even want a conscious relationship? So I'll have you guys answer that question. Like, why would people listening say, yeah, I want to do this work and have a conscious relationship? Like, what for?
Well, just speaking personally, there is absolutely nothing better than having a partner that I can say anything to, that I can talk about anything, you know, that's right there resonating with whatever I'm up to, whatever I'm going through, whether it's the most exalted, wonderful thing or getting bummed out about something. And so, see, I think when human beings are really mature at an emotional and spiritual level, as well as a physical level, you're able to be completely in a close relationship and completely in a relationship with yourself at the same time. Instead of having to abandon yourself to get into the relationship or to stay back so you protect yourself, to be able to be there for both things simultaneously all at once. That's beautiful. Good living.
So instead of a seesaw, because so many of us live, well, I can't feel good because you feel bad, so I have to kind of tone it down. So rather than the seesaw, which I've seen all over the world, this is really like an infinity loop. I give full presence to myself and I come into contact and give full presence to the relationship. And that fuels not only our own individual creativity, our co-creativity, but it ripples out. Wherever we show up, there's this, people can feel it. And they may not know what it is, but that's what it is that we're fully owning the presence and connection and then the creativity that wants to come out of that.
Yeah, beautifully said. And we're not bouncing around with our reactions and our stuff, and just beautiful. Well, my intention for this interview was to not just come in as an interviewer, but really to come in as a student, which is probably my most proudest title that I own, is student. And I just want to thank you so much for being here. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to have had you on. I literally could speak to you for another 3 hours, but you know, I know we have to keep it short for the audience's attention span, but maybe again. And I know I'll see you in Ojai one day. I know that I'll be there because I just absolutely adore you both. Thank you from my heart for being here.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. And I love that you're a lifelong student, because I think that is the attitude that's going to make your life successful.
All right. Many blessings to you. Nice talking to you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep rising, everyone. For books and resources related to today's episode, make sure you head over to sherisespodcast.com, and I'll see you there. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you tune back in next week when I dive into more juicy topics to help make your life the best it can be. And hey, if you've enjoyed listening to the show and you love it, head on over to iTunes and leave me a rate and review and subscribe there to the show.